All right, well, God bless everybody. Today, the topic is the success sequence or faith, hope, love. Have you ever had to make yourself do something you really didn't feel like doing? Like dragging yourself out of bed at 5 a.m. day after day after day to go for a run or to the gym? Or making that final sales call before you call it a day? Or searching out that fulfilling yet lucrative job that you've been dreaming about? Or finally getting the strength to cut it off with your lousy boyfriend or girlfriend? Or regaining your health, that's a biggie. Or the ever-present and ongoing quest to reduce one's weight and to keep it off this time. I'm sure no one has ever said that before. See, all these things can be acquired and maintained as we understand, implement, and follow through on the success sequence. And here's the success sequence. It has three parts. One, thinking ahead on how to get started now. Thinking ahead to get started now, and that's hope. Number two is getting started, which is faith or believing. And number three is staying started, love. Now, none of these are easy. Sometimes we don't know where to start or what to do. We just don't know. And that's where we have to have a hope, a goal, an end game. And sometimes, getting started, just getting out of bed, it's hard. Or just getting off to work or making that call or whatever. There's reasons and there's ways. And finally, staying started. And here's where most people fail. A lot of people have started diets. That's why there's 50 billion of them. But to maintain one, to keep it, that's the hard thing. But this works in anything in life. So these 3 points seem to be so very simple, yet they're grossly underused by most of humankind, yet absolutely mastered by each and every successful person. Quote, successful people do what unsuccessful people are not willing to do. Don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Jim Rohn. Successful people do what unsuccessful people are not willing to do. Now here's my success sequence epiphany. And this thing changed my life. I've been doing long distance trail running for about 15 years. And for years, I never ever ran on the sidewalk or a street unless the dreaded street was the only way to connect me to a trail. And I would tell everyone that I hate running on the street. I only run on trails. And I took some weird sense of false pride in this claim. I couldn't even remember why I started this trail running mania in the first place. Maybe it was self-diagnosed therapy to run my way through my problems at the base of Pikes Peak. Or maybe it was simply just weight loss. Maybe it was just the dumb luck to live in and to try to enjoy the amazing and beautiful red rock foothills of Colorado Springs. I don't really know where it started, but it was becoming harder and harder to find the time to drive to the mountain for my therapeutic run, my escape, my audiobook classroom, my mini vacation. So as I left the employ of a ministry that no longer fit the vision that I held for myself, I immediately started 2 businesses and a small teaching ministry. I found myself with very little free time. My wife worried about me, and I had more things to do at that time than a hungry dog straddling 2 meat wagons. And I had my exercise epiphany on a trip back east to visit my wife's brother. And I went with my brother-in-law to pick up his car at this mechanic's shop. And the man had a well-used bicycle leaning up against the wall in his office. And I asked him if he rode. Should have been obvious to me. And he said that he rides it to work every single day. And so I thought, well, he must live a couple of miles from the shop. Because we're in New Jersey. And And so I thought it wasn't any big deal. Well, he must have been reading my mind. And he said, I live in New York City. I ride across the city, over the George Washington Bridge, and way out here into the New Jersey suburbs every day, rain or shine, sleet or snow. He said, I almost never drive. And I was amazed, because I know what the weather's like back east. And it had to be about 15 miles each way for this guy through East Coast rush hour traffic on his bicycle. And my mind was sizzling. But then I got my answer. That man's example of faithfulness to exercise broke me out of my self-imposed trail running prison. And when I got home, I set my phone for a 5 a.m. wake up alert, and I ran to the gym. Now, this wasn't my usual 13 or 18 mile trail run, but it was still running. You know, it was a measly 4 miles. But I did it the next day, and the next, and the next, and the next. And after a few months, it was just a habit. Now I feel funny if I wake up at 5 and I don't go out the door. I could finally envision myself running in the morning through my neighborhood to the gym. And I make myself get out of bed, check the weather, put on appropriate clothing, get my wife's coffee ready, and just get outside before I can talk myself out of it, especially when it's 10 degrees, windy and snowing. It usually takes me 9 minutes to do all that, to get dressed and to check the weather and to make her coffee. And so at 5:09, I'm out the door, and I do it every workday, every week, every month, no matter the weather. Plus, as a bonus to myself, I still do one long trail run a week. It's still my guilty pleasure. Quote, the way you get started is to quit talking and begin doing, end of quote, Walt Disney. Get started, stop talking about it and get doing it. As I've said many times, all success takes place outside our comfort zone. If you keep doing things, the exact same things that you're doing, you will be at the same place or close to it in a year. And everybody dreams of success, but it takes more than dreams. It takes these 3 steps. First, just think about getting started. Set your life goal. Do you even have one? You know, clearly and cleanly envision your future. And this is a type of hope. Hope is not physical action. It doesn't require physical action. It's all mental, all future tense, all wonderful. Nobody has a hope of bad things happening. Hope is always good. And we hang on to that. Next, we just get started every day. As Nike says, just do it. Just do it. You know, we can call this faith. You can call it believing. You can call it conviction. I don't care what you call it. It's all the same thing. Faith is action. And it's action today. Finally, we get to where we faithfully keep getting started. This would be faithfulness, wouldn't it? You know? See, we love our future enough to keep going. And this is where love comes in. You know, I think about a mom who every day makes those, makes the breakfast, makes the lunches for those kids. She does it because she loves, not because she wants to do it. She doesn't feel like doing that. Or you going to work every day. You don't feel like going, especially if it's not a good situation at work. But what do? You get in your car and you go. I don't feel like going to the gym every day, but I do it. You see? Now, did you notice I threw in 3 perfectly beautiful, eternal words to describe this success sequence? It's hope, faith, and love. You've heard it, but I want to show you. Hope you understand. I hope you. I believe you will understand a little more by the time we're done. So 1 Corinthians 13:13 from the NLT. 3 things will last forever. Faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is what? Love. You see, First, we think about getting started by placing a vision, a goal, a future clearly and cleanly in our mind's eye. Next, we actually get started by believing by faith. We do something every day. We don't wait any longer. We take some action to make our dream come true. And finally, we keep our ball of believing rolling because we love ourselves enough to continue. We love others enough to stay started. Now, none of these are easy. Each one has its unique and demanding difficulties. You know, if it were easy, everybody would be doing it. Everybody would be a millionaire. Everybody would have a successful marriage. There would be nobody in prison. There would be no wars if people did this stuff, but they don't. It's hope, faith, love. You see, if it were easy, why is so much of the New Testament devoted to these three words and principles? It's crammed in there. And it's because they are a success sequence. That's why it's in there so much. So now the success sequence in a nutshell. First off, the thinking that gets you started, which is hope. And the success sequence begins with hope. Hope is defined by Webster as a feeling that something good will happen or be true, to desire with expectation. See, this is in-game thinking. No pro athlete goes into a game and thinks, oh man, I hope we lose today. They never would. In their mind, they can't see anything but victory. Doesn't always happen that way, but they get closer to it. You see, it's like a child. Hope, keeps a mental eye on the future with pleasant expectations, never doubting. Kids don't think, gosh, I'm going to have a lousy life someday. I'm going to grow up and be boring and fat and lazy and sit in the lazy boy, and just watch TV every evening, never travel, never do anything. Nobody thinks that. They think they're going to run the world, change the world, travel, see things, do things, make some money. Think of it as that warm feeling that accompanies knowing that the goals or objectives that we envision they're just down the road. It's just down the road. This is a mind game. This is something we have to do. That's hope. Hope isn't taking action on anything. It's just thinking about something all the time. We just know that they will absolutely happen. It is going to happen. Now, Christians, we got the hope of the return of Christ. Is there any question he's coming back? No, there's no question. It's absolute. That's called the hope. But it's still a hope. We have that. And that's that mindset we have to have of success. It is absolutely going to happen. It's not a question. It's going to. Hope is specific but needs no action plan. No act needs to be taken to bring our hope to pass. Can you do anything to hasten Jesus Christ's return? No. I've known people who thought they could by speaking the word or being good or combing their hair back, whatever, wearing a bigger cross around their neck. Whatever it is, you can't do anything about it. A hope isn't meant for you to do something. It's to think something. It's a mindset. Hope is heat, big, powerful medicine. A person diagnosed with the life-threatening cancer must maintain hope if they're ever going to get cured, right? They have to. You hear about this all the time. Somebody got diagnosed and then they said, I don't want to die. And they changed their diet, they changed their life, they changed their mindset. A lot of times changed their jobs, started doing something they really wanted to do. They always dreamed of doing. Cancer disappears. Why? They had hope. Then they acted, which we'll get to in a minute. Hope anticipates the end game. Hope is that future vision that's so strong, so warm, so lovely, so it's going to happen, that it keeps us going through the most difficult of times. Hope is our vision board. Hope is the mind of the architect that can see the building completed and completely furnished and landscaped in her mind long before the construction work ever even began. Without hope, we would still be running around barefoot with a sharp stick making handprints in our cave. Somebody had to want more, or they would have never left. You wanted more, you wouldn't be the success that you are. Quote, having goals is not enough. One has to keep getting closer to those goals. Amidst all the inevitable twists and turns of life, hope allows people to approach problems with a mindset and strategy set suitable to success, thereby increasing the chances that they will actually accomplish their goals. Hope is not just a feel-good emotion, but a dynamic, cognitive, motivational system. Under this conceptualization of hope, emotion follows cognitions, not the other way around. And that's from Psychology Today, a guy named Scott Barry Kaufman, PhD, 2011. See, hope anticipates future success. Hope is powerful, folks. Hope will save your life. Romans 15:13 from The Voice. I pray that God, the source of all hope, will infuse your lives with an abundance of joy and peace in the midst of your faith, so that your hope will overflow through the power of the Holy Spirit. Hope will overflow. What does that mean? Well, getting started. Now we're going to go to the second part. This is where hope, this is the next step. This is, you can't do a whole lot for certain hopes, you see, and some of them you can. So getting started, or faith. And so next comes faith or believing. Now Webster defines faith as, quote, unquestioning belief, complete trust or confidence, end of quote. It's unquestioning. It's complete trust. You ever put complete trust in somebody and they burned you? Now, that's a horrible feeling, especially if they took you for some money, you see, or took your loved one away from you. You know, I mean, it's wild. It's unquestioning belief. Now, most religions have this built into them, unquestioning. You know, they're born into this, they believe that, and they think this is just the way it is. It's always good to question what you believe, to make sure you're believing the right thing for you. Because it can change. It's changed for me. I'm different now than I was a year ago. I'm different a year ago than I was 10 years before that and 40 years before that. Faith is starting. Faith is getting started. Faith is always present tense. Did you hear that? Faith is always present tense. You see, it's in your face. Bring it home. I'm here. Let's get this party started. That's faith. Faith has no excuses. Doesn't need any. Faith, or believing, puts on her running shoes and gets out the door every day. Faith is not hope. It's not our future vision. We don't hope that we get a new car. I don't hope I'm going to get healed someday. I don't hope I'm going to find that special person. That doesn't make any sense. That's why people don't get their prayers answered, because they're hoping. Hope is a part of it. It's a vision. It's a goal. It's an objective maybe. You see? But faith, or believing, it is flat out, pedal to the metal. It is, you know, rubber on the road, or tennies on the road. And, you know, we don't hope we're going to get that car. Don't hope we're going to get that job. You know, that's like hoping you're going to win the lottery. You know, it's just the wrong use of words. Faith or believing is putting in the energy to do something about it right now. Right now. We don't receive from God because we hope. I sure hope I'm going to receive this from God. That's not, it never says that in the Bible. Never does it ever say that. Yet people pray like that all the time. The word faith just means hope to them. I sure hope, I get healed. I sure hope my mom's going to feel better. And they think it's a good prayer, and it's not. It's weak. You picture mom feeling better. Now what are you going to do about it? How are you going to help her want to do something about it? Might be a better way. The Bible never tells us that we're going to receive because we hope. We receive because we believe. Yeah, faith. And what things soever you desire when you pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall what? Have them. Mark 11:24. What about all things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believe ye shall receive? Matthew 21:22. You ask it in prayer, you just got to believe flat out, a total, full-blown expectation that it is absolutely going to happen. That's faith. Anything less is not faith. It's hope. If you're not willing to put some work into that today, you have no faith, no believing in that. You have to do something about it. It's like, it's not I hope I get healed. It's the mindset of 1 Peter 2:24. I am already healed. By his stripes I was, past tense, healed. That's a whole different mindset than wanting to get healed. And a lot of people don't want to adopt that because they're afraid that they might fail. Well, gosh, it's better to fail 9 times and get success on the 10th than just give up 10 times, right? Faith doesn't wait for anybody or anything. Faith isn't hope. Faith does everything it can do, and it does it today. It does what needs to be done right now. Regardless of the weather, faith is getting started when you don't feel like starting. That's faith. That's step 2. First thing is you got to have that mind picture, got to have that goal, got to have a hope, something to hang on to get you through the hard times. My God, all of you have been through things that are unspeakable. Injuries, accidents, heartbreaks, whatever they are, failures. And if you didn't have that end goal, you'd still be laying there. And then it's like, okay, what am I going to do? How do I get myself out of the sack and get running so I can get back in shape? Or whatever your thing is. You don't have to run. I'm just using an example that works for me. Now we're going to go to the third step, is staying started, which is love. See, love energizes or ignites our faith or believing conviction. It ignites it. What does that mean? Well, I mentioned it earlier. It's like doing those things that you really don't want to do, but you do them anyway. Moms are great at that stuff. That's what love is, folks. Now, I'm not talking about love, gushy love, Oh, I love you, You make your hand into a heart shape, send little emojis, on your Facebook, hearts popping up, all over the place. I'm not talking about that kind of love. I'm talking about real love. Love is staying started. It's continuing to do those things that you really don't feel like doing. You don't feel like it, but you just keep doing it. Love makes us faithful. Love makes us full to overflowing with faith, would be another thing. That love is what makes you faithful, you see, or believing full, or conviction full. Love is overflowing action for the benefit of ourselves or another. It's just overflowing in action. That's what love is. For your benefit or another. Do you love yourself enough to get out of bed and get into shape? Do you love yourself enough to to go for those checkups that you just don't want to really hear the results from? You see? Do you love yourself? I mean, you know what I'm talking about here. You see, love gets us out the door every day, month after month, year after year. Love is the greatest, like 1 Corinthians 13:13 said. Think of love as a decision rather than a feeling. I know there's many types of love. There's physical love. You know, there's brotherly love. There's familial love. And the kind of love we call the love of God. But this thing that we term the love of God, agape, was thought of differently by the Greeks and early Christians. See, because when you think of that kind of love, that kind of universal, amazing love of God, then we can separate ourselves from it. And then the highest kind of love we could ever find would be brotherly love, like a soldier might have next to, you know, the person they go into battle with, or a brother fighting for a brother, or you know what I'm saying, a family, you know. But there's a higher kind of love, and you know, and so these Greeks and early Christians thought of it as a love with no prejudice. There was no strings attached to this love, and there was no feelings and no emotions. It has nothing to do with emotions. It has nothing to do, the love of God has nothing to do with feelings. It is just love. It's a decision. It's a decided love, a universal love, an all-encompassing love. It's the highest form and the greatest type of love. Love keeps you motivated to get up and get out the door for another 5. You know, love gets you to make that lunch again and again and again and again, and make those beds and pick that stuff up, and you know, and go through that traffic that you hate every day after day after day after day. Go to the gym. Make that phone call. Call the family members. Write those cards. That's love. You don't have to like it. You just have to do it if you love. You see, love is that final sales call when you're crazy tired because you made a promise to yourself to make 20 sales calls that day. That's loving yourself enough. You see, you know, and then it's getting up and doing it again the next day. Love never fails you because you don't fail yourself. See, love is something you decide. You decide not to give up on yourself. If you decide to lose weight, then do it, dang it. Just do it. Well, to steal a quote, just do it. What are you waiting for? Someone to take you by the hand and jog you around the block every single day for the rest of your life? No. So how do we practically apply this success sequence? Now remember, first it's the hope. It's just thinking about getting started. And a lot of planning can go into that. But the next step, the action step, you know, the faith step, that isn't, there's no planning there. It is just flat out doing it. You've already done the planning. You've made your business plan. Now just jump out of bed and go for the run. Make that call when you don't feel like calling. Wash that dish when you don't feel like washing that dish. You get the point. Now there's countless books and sayings and verses that'll help you learn to do each of these 3 success principles. And there's much more to this than I could ever go into in a half an hour or so. And sometimes all we can do is hang on to a positive promise. You ever been in that situation where it was the only thing that got you through the day and kept you from doing something really stupid? That's hope. Just hanging on to that image, that vision, that something. You see, other times we just need to get started, and we need to get started today. We need to start making waves today. We put a vision into action. We find a way to bring that future into our reality, or at least a piece of it we bring home today. That's faith. That's believing. That's conviction. I am going to do something today to begin to change my life. I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to wait till I feel like it. How many times do you feel like doing a lot of those mundane tasks? Never. Nobody does. I don't want to weed my garden, but I go out there and I do it. As I know some people, they're nodding, they love weeding their garden. But you get it. Everybody's different. Everybody's different. You see, but that's faith, you know. We just need to get started at times. And with any endeavor, we must love ourselves enough to stay started. We love our children enough to stay started. We love our wife or husband enough to stay started, or girlfriend, or workmate, or whomever. Stay started. That's the hardest thing in the world to do. That's where most people fail. That's why by February 1st, most New Year's resolutions are forgotten. Now, about 10% of people ever even make it to February 1st on goals, because we're so used to giving ourselves excuses. Why? I don't feel like getting up at 5. I don't feel like it. You're never going to feel like putting in the work to really love yourself. You're not going to feel like it. You just make a decision and dang it, you do it. You know what I'm saying. You see, you find a way to stay faithful. You find a way to keep plugging along. Put one foot in front of the other. I mean, I see that when I do the Pikes Peak Marathon every year. You get up above timberline. It's about 12,000 feet. And oxygen is about a third of what you have at the bottom of the mountain. So, you know, your breath doesn't go as far. You see these people, they're just wandering around. We call them zombies. And they're just standing there, and they don't understand. They've just vomited or done something, and I'll go by and say, hey, you're doing good, man. Just keep going. It's only 2 miles up. You know, it's 18 miles or, you know, more back. You see, or whatever, 9 miles. You know, so 9 miles, not 18. You see, but it's you just got to keep moving. I said, just put a foot in front of the other, and you're going to get to the top. Do they feel like it? No. They feel like having somebody carry them up. You've been so tired that you wanted to stop, but what'd you do? You kept going. You might have been so lost sometime, maybe hunting or in a new town or something, and you just keep looking until you find your way home. Or might have been lost emotionally. I don't know which way to go. Had my heart ripped out of my chest. But you just keep moving, keep moving, keep moving, and I guarantee there's a better love out there for you. Has to be, or you wouldn't be here. The world needs you. You see, usually to keep moving in the face of opposition requires a firm, unmovable hope, and that's where the cycle begins again. Because a lot of times when you start really taking action, you're going to get challenged. You ever notice that? You ever notice how the race is hardest towards the end? Always is. The game is always hardest the last few minutes. You know, a goal, as you get closer, that's when the pressure really comes on. Or when you make a decision to really change, then you get challenged. Why? Because the whole world liked you the way you were. It molded you into that. It took a whole lifetime to get you to that place. And we like you are. Now you're going, change on us? You're getting skinnier, you're looking better, you look healthier, you're doing more things, you're traveling. What? You got a better job. I'm jealous. I want to pull you back down, buddy. Don't think it doesn't happen. Like I always say all the time, you know, who can hurt you the most? It's the people closest to you. You know, and you know, and so you have to be aware, especially when you want to make a big life change. They may not want to buy into the same goal. It's nice if they do, because there's power in twos, right? and more than twos. See, it's moving in the face of opposition. And that's where you might have to, even once you made a habit, is go back to your hope. Go back to that starting point. Go back to that vision that you dreamed of one time. Now we're going to talk about, so thinking about getting started is hope. Now, some verses I thought of to go along with this, just a few. I can do, right? Philippians 4:13. God will direct our steps, right? Proverbs 3:6. God plans to prosper you. Jeremiah 29:11. He plans to prosper you. The word will never fail us. Luke 1:37. Every good gift is from the Father of lights. James 1:17. And the final one I have here is hope is the anchor of your soul. Hebrews 6:19. It's an anchor. Boom. You become unmovable at that point, folks. But those are verses on hope. Those are verses on vision. That's where we got to keep our mind. That God plans to prosper you. So if God planned to prosper you, you think it's a good plan? You think he could fill you in on that plan? Think he could show you how to make that plan happen? Yes. The reason we don't is we're afraid to take the next step. Quote, we must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. Martin Luther King Jr. Never lose infinite hope. Quote, let your hopes, not your hurts, shape your future. Robert Schuller. Some people are defined by their hurts. When you see them, you hurt for them. And all they talk about is all the problems they have. You see? But let your hopes, not your hurts, shape your future. And the last quote here is, hope is that thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. Emily Dickinson. It just keeps singing. Keep singing nice stuff to your head. That's hope. It's always good. It's always wonderful. And it's always vivid. Now, some books I've recently read that helped me set a vision for myself beyond my current self. Now, I want to throw a disclaimer out here. Just because a book was good for me doesn't mean it'll be good for you. Just because I like a book doesn't mean you're going to like a book. So don't get up. I always love the people who give me all these books, because they read them. Well, it's nice, but sometimes I just have no interest. I start reading it and it does nothing for me. So these are ones that helped me. Really helped me in the last few months. And one is The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. And then here's another one, You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. And then The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And they've all helped me with that vision of myself and vision of what I could do. What I should expect from myself, which is hope. So thinking about getting started is hope. And that's step one. It's just thinking about getting started. It's making that goal to get started. Now getting started, or faith, or believing, or conviction, or whatever word you like. And here's the verses. If you know it, do it. That's John 13:17. Be a doer who acts. James 1:22 through 25. Be a doer of the word, not a hearer. Who do you deceive if you just talk? Yourself. Show your faith by your works. James 2:18. Now the book of James is a great epistle on getting things done, on faith. Show your works, show your faith by your works. It's not talk. Nobody wants to hear you talk anymore. We're tired of hearing about the diet you're going to do. You see? Go do it. Just do it. Whatever you do, put your heart into it. Colossians 3:23 and 24. Whatever you do, put your heart into it. And then a wise man will hear and do. Matthew 7:24. And the last verse I had here is, whatever you find yourself doing, be mighty. Ecclesiastes 9:10. Whatever you're doing, be mighty at doing that. Mighty, mighty. Be mighty. You know, if you're gonna do a job, you're gonna pull weeds from the garden, you're gonna go for a run, you're gonna go on more sales calls, you're gonna go on a date. Be mighty. Be the greatest you could ever be at that. Quote, fear knocked at the door. Faith answered, and lo, no one was there. Author unknown. I like that. Fear knocked, faith answered. Fear wasn't there anymore. You know, quote, faith is spiritualized imagination. Henry Ward Beecher. It's spiritualized imagination. Really, it's imagination in action. You know, that's what faith is. Quote, be like the bird that passing on her flight, a while on boughs too slight, feels them give way beneath her, and yet sings, knowing that she hath wings. End of quote. And that's Victor Hugo. You know, I mean, a bird isn't afraid of falling. So why should you be? You never seen a bird just fall and hit the ground. You see, they open those wings and now, unless you're a hunter, I know that's what somebody was thinking. Okay, we're talking about a live bird, an unharmed bird. You see, you just spread the wings and boom. That's faith. Faith must be enforced by reason. When faith becomes blind, it dies. Mahatma Gandhi. You've known people with blind faith, and you cannot convince them otherwise. It's a scary place, and they do horrific things on this earth, blind faith. Think about what you're thinking about. Think about what you believe. Think about the goals that have been set in your mind. Did you set them or did somebody else? Because I guarantee if you're not setting your goals, somebody else is. If you're not living your dream, you're living somebody else's dream. It's just the way it goes. Last quote here. Feed your faith and your fears will starve to death. Author unknown. Feed your faith. You know how you feed your faith? Action. Today. A book that recently helped me just get started. And I'm only going to list one book because this one really is cool. And it's called The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. The 5-second rule. And I'm not talking about the kind you use when you're a kid and you drop food on the floor and if you pick it up within 5 seconds and blow it off, it's okay to eat. Now here's a quote from her blog. You're never going to feel like it. Motivation doesn't just come in an instant and stay for the rest of your life. So instead of approaching changing your life and accomplishing your bucket list like a huge task, you must start thinking about the small changes you make every day and make life-altering positive differences over time. That's why the 5-second rule is essential to learn. It will be the push you need in the moments when you don't feel like it, but know you should do it. The moment you have an instinct to act on a goal, you must physically act within 5 seconds or your brain will stop you. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get out of bed. That's her example. She said on a TED talk that she was having trouble just getting up, wanting to get up. And then she saw this rocket ship lift off on TV. And she saw 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, lift off. And she said, well, I'm going to try that the next day to get out of bed. And she did. And what happens is when you count backwards, it does something to the frontal cortex, of your mind, and it changes the way you think because you don't usually count backwards. And so then all of a sudden and there's nothing after 0. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. You see, and so whatever it is, and she used the example like if you want to walk up to a person in the bar and meet them, and if you wait 5 seconds, you're going to talk yourself out of it. You see, so it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you just get up and you go. Or you've been at a wedding and nobody's on the dance floor, but you really want to dance. Okay. And but you're waiting for somebody else to get out there. It's just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stand up and go. Hit the dance floor, and then dance like no one's watching. Because nobody really cares anyway. And plus, now other people are going to get out there. You see, it's just, but it works in so many things. That sales call. I can't make one more call. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, just do it. And so that book has really blessed me. Now, the final point, staying started or love. Verses are do, love, and walk. Micah 6:8. Or how about you're a light? You're a light in this world. Matthew 5:14. Or just finish doing it. 2 Corinthians 8:11. Or if you've begun a good work, finish it. Philippians 1:6. Or better is the end of a thing than the beginning. That's Ecclesiastes 7:8. Getting started's okay. Finishing's better. And every day when I drive to work, I see this one building. I think it's called Colorado Crossing. And it's been unfinished for, I'd say, 10 years. And people keep buying it and then selling it and buying it and selling it. And it's just a shell of a huge building. Somebody had a great idea, but they didn't follow through. They didn't follow through with the action or the gaining investors. They dropped the ball somewhere. And to me, it's a testament to unfaithfulness. Colorado Crossing. You know, it's better. The end is better. You know, if you begin a good work, finish it. The better is the end of a thing. You see, Jesus said, "My food is to finish His work." You see, John 4:34. Did I tell you that other one is Ecclesiastes 7:8? Better is the end of a thing. You see, Jesus Christ, my food is to finish His work. And then the final one is keep your lamp lit, keep shining. Luke 12:35. And that's love. Just keep it up, day after day after day. Just let your light so shine before men that they see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Quote, love yourself. It is important to stay positive because beauty comes from the inside out. As Jen Prosky. You know, beauty comes from the inside out, so love yourself. Quote, if you love life, don't waste time, for time is what life is made up of. Bruce Lee. And finally, let the beauty of what you love be what you do. Rumi. See, the books I've read recently that help me keep moving day after day one's The War of Art. Not The Art of War, but The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. One I just recently went through is called The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. And he's a little bit crass, but you know, he just hits you straight up. He says if you're not putting in 10 times the effort, then you're not going to get somewhere. It's better to put 10 times the effort in and get 8 times as far than to keep doing what you're doing. Instead of making 10 calls, make 100 calls that day. You see, put in 10 times the effort, 10 times the energy, whatever it takes. Do more. That's what successful people do. Here's another one I read recently. It's a great one. It's called The Go-Giver. The Go-Giver by Bob Burg and John Mann. And the last one, it's a funny title, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Beep. Starts with an F. By Mark Manson. Because you only have so many beeps to give in life. So you just got to live. Got to stop caring what everybody else thinks. You just got to not give a and go for it. You know, see, stay started. You know, love is step 3. So in summary, have you ever had to make yourself do something you really didn't feel like doing? And we all agree we have. Like dragging yourself out of bed at 5 a.m. day after day to go for a run or to the gym, making that final sales call, you know, searching for that new job, regaining your health, or trying to keep the weight off this time for good. All these can be acquired and maintained as we understand, implement, and follow through on the success sequence, which is 1, thinking ahead to get started now. Thinking ahead, that's hope. Number 2, get started, faith. And number 3, stay started, which is love. These 3 points, so simple, but they're grossly underused by most of mankind, yet they're absolutely mastered by successful people. Success sequence begins with hope. Remember, it's a feeling that something good's going to happen. It's a desire with expectation. It's the end game thinking. You know, God's going to direct you. You know, the word will never fail. Every good gift is from God. The hope is the anchor. First we think of future results, then we get started. Next comes faith or believing. Webster describes that as unquestioning belief, complete and full and utter trust and confidence. Faith is starting. Faith is always present tense, in your face. Bring it home. I'm here. Let's get this party started. Faith has no excuses. Faith or believing is now thinking. Show your faith by your works. Whatever you do, put your heart into it. And then love, the last one, it energizes or ignites that faith or believing into conviction. Love is the long-term thing. It's staying started. It makes us faithful, makes us overflowing. Love is overflowing action for the benefit of ourselves or another. Love gets us out of the door every day, every month, every year. You know, if you begin a work, finish it. It's better to end something than just to start it. You see, so once again, you know, think of how to get started. Set some mind picture to get started. Then get started with faith. First one's hope. And now stay started with love. That is a success sequence. God bless.